Welcome to Plot Twist Radio, the show where creativity, storytelling, and the unpredictable path of the creative life all collide. I'm your host, Erin Egnatz. Hello, and welcome to Plot Twist Radio.
Hi, how are you? I'm Andy Haynes. I'm a comedian and writer based out of New York City.
Well, it's great to have you. I was just on your Instagram and I was loving some of your skits, especially the Miss Rachel one. I love the Miss Rachel one.
But thank you. That's been a door opener for me. I get a lot of, I have like this huge kind of like Arab Muslim kind of fan base now. I think I'm going to Syria for some reason with like a charitable project. But yeah.
Very cool. That's really good. I don't really get into politics a lot, but I just wanted to touch on that before we really get going.
But thanks. Yeah. I don't know, like I want to keep it light. And I mean, I think for career-wise, it would be so much more lucrative if I could just be like, man, there's too many cereal brands or something like that, like that kind of comedy. But that's not how my brain works. Yeah, so it's just kind of where I was raised by a bunch of lefties, and it's kind of where my mind goes.
Gotcha. So you've been in comedy for a while now. Was there a moment early on when you realized, oh, I might actually be good at this?
Yeah, I think it was kind of, I was probably 4 years in, and I was in a competition in Seattle, and I was like supposed to go home that night, like just like numerically how the rankings were. And I had just like the set of my life, and I like eked into the next round, and I didn't go anywhere from there. But there was like just like such a phenomenal set that I was kind of like, wow, like I actually have the ability to like turn this on and kind of do something not like profound or anything, but just like I can be good at this. And so I think that was a little after I'd been laid off from a job too. So I was kind of putzing around. I didn't have like a career I was walking away from or anything like that. I kind of put all my eggs in this basket. So yeah, right then.
That's a good time to start, I would say. So comedy, it seems really fun until people hear about the travel, sometimes the hotels, empty rooms. And of course, this is something I've noticed when I went to comedy shows. Audiences can be kind of weird. What part of stand-up would surprise people the most?
I don't, comedy's so ubiquitous right now. I would say that there's a lot of weird interactions with fans. For some reason, there's like a big thing where people think the go-to is to like roast you. So like I'll meet guys that are strangers, and like the first thing they say to me is like something really offensive. And I'm just like, okay, man, cool. Thanks. And I know that their heart's in the right place. And also I put a certain version of myself on stage that's probably seems a little more bulletproof. But yeah, that's like, I think that's one of the weirder things. And then the other things, it's just like, it's almost like being like a salesman or something like that, as far as just like the lifestyle. Cause it's just like, I'm on a plane every Thursday, and I'm on another plane every Sunday. And sometimes I'm on a plane Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And I'm staying in like the Holiday Inn Express, and it's like, it's just very planes, trains, and automobiles, which I think that a lot of people, they either have the image of like the old kind of like blazer jacket comedian who's just like, I don't know, almost like a cruise ship comic, just kind of like that style. But then there's like a new kind of comic who's like a rich celebrity. Like there's so many comedians I know that because of COVID and the internet have become like these giant names, and they can sell theater after theater after theater. They're just like, they're rich now. And it's all because Instagram, really, like just like obeying the algorithm and kind of like leaning into that, which is something I wish I knew how to do. But that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize, is that like even some of the really successful comedians, they're still like, like if you go and you play the theater in Des Plaines, Illinois, it's like there's not like a Ritz-Carlton there. You're playing the whatever it is, like you're staying at the Holiday Inn Express or the Roadway Inn, and you're eating at the Applebee's. That's the only restaurant in town, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And it's funny you say Des Plaines. I was just there yesterday. So
Wow, that's
I
random.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really weird. That was weird, but it's very interesting. Yeah. Des Plaines is kind of boring. So, are you the same person off stage or, is that more of like a personality for the stage?
Well, this is like a really pretentious answer. So, apologies ahead of time, but I've always thought comedy is, and really all art is like you're trying to refine a version of yourself that's the most authentic. And there's lots of different like caveats to that. Like some people are characters, but there's like an essence to that character that is like part of their DNA, like some guys play like a really like mean, asshole and they're nice guys, but there's like something in their heart that that's sincere too. And then, like visual artists, actors, I think everything, it's like we think about great actors like Tom Hanks, um, Jack Nicholson, Meryl Streep or whatever. They don't really often go on stage and play a different person. I mean, some of them can adapt an accent or a different kind of like ethos or like, whatever vibe. But pretty much they've found something that is so honest and true to themselves that they just like put that out there and it works. And I really think it's the most, similar to like, have you ever read The Alchemist?
I haven't, no.
So The Alchemist it's like a Oprah book club kind of book. You can find it anywhere, but it's about this guy kind of like searching for meaning over this journey. And, they use this allegory of the alchemist, which is like, kind of like a wizard or like it's almost like an esoteric, kind of mythical being who refines metal he's trying to find this thing called the philosopher's stone, which is like the most refined metal. And if you achieve the philosopher's stone, you can apply that metal to anything and it turns to gold. That's what alchemy, like the old school alchemists were trying to do. And, I think that that's what I want to do as an artist. Like I want to be such a sincere version of myself that even if I don't feel like it, I go on stage and I can do that. I can summon that. And sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not. It's just like I find it very funny with comedy because sometimes I get up there and I'm just like, I'm so impressed with myself because I can be in a room full of people that I just don't relate to on like a conversational level, but I'm doing my job and it's working and it's fun. Like that's the most important thing is I'm having fun. But there's other days where I go up and it's like, they hate me. Like they are so just like, I can't believe I got a babysitter for this, like that kind of vibe. And it's a very weird art form where you can do it. Like I've been doing it almost, every night for 21 years. And I don't think there's another art form where you can get up there after 21 years and be horrible at it. You know what I mean? Like you can't play piano every night for like 21 years and get up and just like, ugh, that doesn't even sound like music. And that totally happens in comedy. And I think it happens to everybody. I know some people that are really genius and they're able to kind of like consistently always either write jokes that work or they are a persona that is always funny. And there's always those people that are just funny. Like we know people that were like, you should do comedy. You're so funny. And those people, when they do comedy, usually it's kind of a layup for them. But, yeah, sometimes I do comedy and it's just like, I think sometimes the audience is like, have you ever done this before? Like, is this your first show? But if you watch the documentary Comedian, which came out in like 2002, there's a shot of Jerry Seinfeld and the lady in the audience, he's like not doing well. And the lady in the audience goes, is this your first time? And it's like, he was the most famous comedian in the world at that moment. So yeah.
Oh, very good answer. And it's surprising, but not at the same time. Cause you hear this about, especially with comedy, it's just the vibe of the audience more than anything, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you're kind of trying to like conjure something up within them. It's like a lot of people will go on stage and a room will be awkward and they won't mention it. And there is some value to that, but I can't do that. I got to go up and I got to be like, what is going on with you guys? Like you are not giving us anything. And I kind of scold them. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. I did this show the other day for like this. I'm very liberal and I did it for this like kind of conservative news outlet that I would never have done, but they offered me money. And I was trying to chastise them, and it was just like, they just like went farther back into their shell. So I kind of just stopped and did my act, and, we had some successes and failures, but we made it through.
Oh, very cool. And good for
Yeah.
you to go to the other side. Sometimes that's got to be really difficult. Ah,
Yeah. I think that's the problem right now. Like, I mean, I think the stuff that I disagree with in politics is, I don't want to say like life or death or anything, but it is like things that I'm not willing to bend on,
mm,
but I am willing to have a conversation. And I think a lot of people don't take into account that, like, people make a lot of decisions based on fear. People make a lot of decisions based on groupthink, identity. Like, there's all these different things that go into factors. And for the most part, I think people are pretty disconnected from the actual, like, stuff on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, they I find that whenever anybody goes and they meet somebody and they like talk to them and they spend time with them, most of those like hateful kind of ideologies go out the door. It's like, we can disagree, but if I can get to you on like a person to person level, that's like, that will kind of bridge the gap every time.
yes, absolutely. We need more of that. So, as far as audiences go, is there a favorite city that you like?
Um, I joke with my manager that I like to perform in cities that have a strong recycling and compost program. That's kind of my bread and butter. But it's like funny because it's like, you go to San Francisco and that's a very liberal city, but they're like a little more sensitive, like, right? Like, cause I don't like toe the line of like liberal comic. Like, I say offensive stuff still. I have jokes that are probably not PC. I try to not be bigoted or like I try not to punch down, which is like very big in comedy right now. There's a lot of punching down. Um, but at the same time, conservatives are better. They're better at taking a joke. Like, you can razz conservatives. Not this audience last Sunday. They were awful. Every time I razzed them, they got like more upset. But like, I'll go to these little towns, I'll do these gigs, and they'll all be like kind of cowboys and, like working class folks and, just diametrically opposed to me. The kind of people that think like they think like New York's like a war zone, right? Like those kind of people where they think like, you're like, when I go out to get groceries, that I'm like fighting a horde of bandits and, they're making me take like the trans allegiance, pledge or whatever. And then I'll meet them and, like, they'll be kind of good sports, and they'll be kind of like, so I mean, most ideally I'm performing for people just like me. I'm performing because they just get my references and they kind of get my subtlety. Like, I'm going to do a special in Brooklyn in about 10 days. And if the right group of people show up, ideally it's kind of middle-aged, on the younger side of middle-aged, liberal, kind of, but also not too liberal, like that kind of thing, like kind of people that can take a joke and stuff like that. So that would, ideally it's people that can kind of relate to my life experience.
Gotcha. Do you think that comedy itself has evolved, especially over the past couple years?
I think it's evolved a little bit, but I don't mean to say that like too negatively. It's just that comedy used to be this thing about this live experience, which is still very big, but it was kind of, everything would lead up to like a special, right? Everything would lead up to like an HBO special or a Netflix special or some kind of like big live thing that was, like kind of, I don't know, important, like kind of like the high watermark of this body of work or whatever. It was like, like these tent posts along the way of like what you were doing. And comedy more recently has really just completely shifted to the internet. And I don't say that without any, like, there's no argument about that. Like, every single thing in the comedy is measured by followers, engagement, ticket sales that are a direct result of that. And in some ways that's cool, right? Because like, I can reach an audience directly. I don't have to wait for somebody to give me permission or work with a producer who's going to like use their fan base. And also I can kind of create what I put out, right? Like, I can be a creator and I can just make stuff and I can kind of be very creative and kind of dictate how I'm whatever seen. But at the same time, the algorithm isn't like democratic. The algorithm is like, they want you to quick, punchy, get them like roped in immediately and all this stuff. So there's like subtlety that's lost. The larger art form is lost. People record stuff all the time and just release it, and it's no big deal. So that stuff is I think kind of detrimental to the art form, because it's like, for me, I don't think comedy's 30 seconds. You know, like for me, I came up in a period of time where like you build and you kind of, there's an arc and a narrative to your act, and it's like it culminates in these like large moments. But I think there's a lot of people that don't care about that. They're like, I get so much content constantly fed to me. I don't really need to sit around for you to get to the point of your 45-minute show. And also, podcasting is just, there's so many comedy podcasts and guys are hilarious. So why do I really need to like wait for you to be on a special when I, for free, can watch you every week on YouTube, just like make me laugh? So it's very different. Yeah.
It is. It is. Social media itself has just changed everything. Like, I'm an author, so,
I have friends who it's like they have a book and their publishers like, all right, get on social media, start pushing content. It's like dentists, real estate agents, they all have to do it. And it's so crazy because I think it's almost to a detriment because, do we really want to see I'm trying to think of the famous author, Updike, like, do we want to see like John Updike make reels?
right.
And because he can't make reels, does that mean he's like a bad author? No, of course not. He's like one of the greatest American writers in all time, right? Or Mary Oliver, or, somebody like that, like a beautiful poet. It's like people don't have the attention span anymore to like sit down and read poetry or read great prose. And I would be so upset if I saw these great authors. Like if all of a sudden I see Jonathan, who wrote The Hours and all that, Jonathan, where's his book? I'm not going to get it, but great American author, right? And it's like, if all of a sudden he's like on his phone and he's like, I got a new book coming out. Everybody save the date, June 25th. It's going to be awesome. It's a great, and I'm just like, oh my God, that would be a nightmare. I would really want us to pull the plug on the whole thing.
Yes. Yeah. I'm right there with you on that. I feel like social media is leaving me at this point. I don't know what to do anymore as far as like,
I think we're all going to the woods. I think all of us that it's like, it either works and you're stuck in this like hamster wheel of content creation, or it doesn't work. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to the woods. I'm going to like make jam. I'm going to go for these like contemplative walks, and that will be my life now. I don't need this.
So true. So true. So last question. When you look back at your younger self starting comedy, what would you give him, like, as advice goes?
Save money. That would be my first. No, I think more than anything, and I really try not to, because I could have a lot of regrets. I've had a lot of opportunities where they could have positioned me in a place where I could have had a career that was solidly just, like I'd still be working in that specific field, like TV writing specifically. I kind of messed that up. And other just like big moments that I didn't capitalize on, or I was too immature to deal with. So I try not to think about those, but I think more than anything for any young artist and really for anybody is know what you want to do. Like have an idea of what this looks like, and not just like, oh, I just want to write, or just like, oh, I just want to act, or, oh, I just want to like look at it and see what do you want your career to look like? Right. Because for the longest time, and this is like what I mean by like messing up some of these opportunities. When I was like this fresh, hot, young thing, when I was like 28 and I'd just done Fallon for the first time, and I got management and agency, and they like took me to NBC and Sony Pictures and all these places. And I would get these meetings with these like high up executives at these studios. They'd be like, what do you want to do? And I'd be like, I'm just happy. Yeah, I'm happy with anything. And they'd go, oh, okay, bye. Now, Gerard Carmichael, when he was that same fresh, hot thing, I was never as hot as a fresh, I was never that big of a young name. But when he walked into those offices, he said, I want to be the next Bill Cosby. I want to be the next Bill Cosby. This is before the Bill Cosby stuff. Thank God. But you know what I mean? Like, it was like, he had an idea, and people can latch onto that. And I think that it also just like, if you're intentional with your actions, I think that you get the results that come along with that. And for the longest time, I showed up and I was happy to be there, or I was unhappy to be there. And I was just doing whatever. And now it's like, no, I kind of like what my career looks like right now. I could make a little bit more money just because I have a kid, and you know, I could stay at a little nicer hotels, stuff like that. But it's pretty cool, and it's kind of what I want, and it's kind of what I decided I wanted about 10 years ago, and it took me a long time to get here, but now that I'm here, it's like, this is like kind of dream come true, and it's only because I started to look at it with the idea that like, this is what I want life to look like.
Yeah. And that's awesome. That's awesome that you're doing what you love, because I think a lot of us don't. So it's great that you're doing that.
I do a lot of stuff I don't love, but
Wow.
I want to be inspirational. Yeah.
So where can the audience find you?
I think the most helpful place for me is just I'm Andy Haynes on Instagram. That's kind of like mainly where I'm at. I have YouTube and TikTok, but Instagram's kind of mainly where I advertise and I kind of interact with fans and post and stuff like that. But if you go to my website, I'mAndyHaynes.com, and I'm anywhere close to you that's convenient enough to hire a babysitter, please come out. I would love to see you at a live show.
Very cool. And I'll make sure those links are in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Aaron.